The story is usually told as a fairly simple morality tale, and it goes something like this. And what I'm going to do now is just quickly summarize the story you usually see in the textbooks. At the time Jackson became president in 1829, the Cherokees and other Indians were occupying their ancestral lands east of the Mississippi, which the United States had guaranteed to them in perpetuity through solemn treaties. By the way, that part of the textbook story is absolutely true. But white people wanted those lands for themselves. As the textbooks will tell you, the discovery of gold on Cherokee land in Georgia triggered a stampede of whites onto Indian land. The Indians appealed to the Supreme Court, which in the case of Worcester versus Georgia in 1832, upheld their right to stay where they were and to govern themselves. But Jackson, who everybody knows was an Indian fighter and Indian hater from way back, defied the Supreme Court, saying, John Marshall, the Chief Justice, has made his decision, now let him enforce it. And so, left without recourse and with their lands being overrun by white intruders backed by state authority, a small, unauthorized minority of the Cherokees signed a treaty, the Treaty of New Echota, in 1835, calling for their removal to present-day Oklahoma. And then when the vast majority of Cherokees, including the legitimate leaders of their government, refused to submit to this fraud, they were rounded up and removed by military force. This, the forced Cherokee removal in 1838, one on which many hundreds of people died, and historians are still arguing about how many hundreds, was the infamous Trail of Tears, though out among the general population, the phrase Trail of Tears has kind of expanded to include not only the forced removal of the Cherokees in 1838, but all of the Jacksonian-era Indian removals. All right, that's the standard story, the one that everyone thinks they know in a nutshell. And although the 1838 deportation was actually conducted under President Martin Van Buren, because Jackson wasn't president anymore, Van Buren was Jackson's hand-picked successor, and in fact, the removal was clearly the fruit of Jackson's policy. Now, there's no question that Jackson is the central villain in this story, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't be. As the editor of Jackson's papers, as a Jackson scholar, it is not my business to defend Andrew Jackson. I don't think I would want to, even if I was supposed to. I'm not here to give a special brief for Andrew Jackson, but I will say that, as often happens, this standard school book version of the story sacrifices some historical accuracy for moral clarity. In offering up a tale of transparent right and wrong, it obscures the true depths and difficulty of the problem. And in offering up an easy villain to blame, it allows the other actors in the drama, historical and living, perhaps even you and me, to escape taking their or our share of the responsibility. If it's all Jackson's fault, then the rest of us get off scot-free.